I'm Hilary Jenkins, co-founder and chief visual officer of Vast Vision Publishing, and you're listening to True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Hilary Jenkins about Vast Vision Publishing and more. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Hilary Jenkins is the co-founder and chief visual officer at Vast Vision Publishing, where her passion for painting converges with an inventive approach to coloring comics. Her mastery of gouache, watercolor, and acrylic gives birth to a distinctive painterly style that graces the pages of an array of celebrated works. Notable among these titles such as Eisner-nominated Grass Kings, Eisner-nominated Swim Team, Apache Delivery Service, Tartarus, Hairball, Black Badge, Fear Case, and more. Hilary's creative journey has taken her through esteemed publishers, including Dark Horse Publishing, Image Publishing, Boom, HarperCollins, Oni Publishing, and Scholastic. And just so you know, Hilary will reteam with Johnny Christmas on Gamerville, graphic novel slated for stores this July. Vast Vision is a publisher with a mandate to take steps into a united future where creative people come together around a warm campfire to share knowledge and networks to celebrate one another's successes. So without further ado, here's my chat with Hilary Jenkins about Vast Vision Publishing and more. So Hilary Jenkins, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Of course, this is great. Thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate your time. Before I get going with all the questions, I'd like to ask you and find out, what was the first comic book that you read?
That's it. Yeah, and I was thinking about that. I think it was probably Little Dot or Richie Rich long ago. They were well enjoyed all through the summers. I spent a lot of time with like Archie and that kind of time of comics.
Sure, lots of good stuff there for sure. But I'd like to ask you also, who or what inspires you to create today?
Oh man, it's such a variety of things. It's anything from movies and the cinematography in movies. Like recently, one of my most inspiring movies has been Poor Things with Emma Stone. That kind of dance of surrealism and beautiful color themes is like, that's my happy place. But then I'm also really inspired by music and fine art and the world around me. Very much, whenever I go anywhere, whether I travel or even just around the neighborhood, I'll be taking lots of pictures. Sometimes I'll get a chance to sit and paint outside. And all of that is very much informing everything I do as inspiration.
Do you gravitate towards fine art?
I do. I feel like that's kind of one of the origins of my love of making art. I was kind of trained classically when I was younger. So my mentor was a fine artist, and that's kind of why I've brought the fine art aspect into how I color comics with using more traditional mediums. So I like to be able to touch the pigment. I like to be able to affect a surface, and then it translates well into comics.
Absolutely. That's great. Now, we're here talking because we were in conversation prior to this about your newest venture called Vast Vision Publishing. So I wonder if you could talk a wee bit about that. What is it all about?
Yeah, we're so excited. There's four of us. There's Joe Keating, Curtis Weeb, Shannon Woodhouse, and me. And Curtis and Shannon are kind of our pillars in Stockholm. And then there's me in Canada, and then Joe in the States. And all of us have been in the industry for a really long time and had our ups and downs and seen a lot of beautiful work and wanting to also help kind of the next generation and also the current generation of creators and give them really a safe space to gather in community on Discord. We have a really great community on Discord, and very encouraging and challenging. We like to use the analogy of kind of setting a fire. We're the ones sitting at the fire, kind of setting it, getting the kindling, gathering the wood. And we'd like to think that inviting these storytellers to the fire can change people's lives and really encourage kind of a listening space and a safe space to tell those stories that you maybe didn't get a chance to tell, or to create that art. So we're really just like patrons of the storytellers. So we're a publisher, but we're also a community, and very much mentoring and helping kind of feed that positivity out into the world.
Did you find that do you find that the current marketplace for making comic books today just doesn't allow for that type of creativity?
It can be stifling. There's a lot of, I mean, I've worked on amazing projects with amazing publishers, but it can be very produced in some ways. In some places, it tends to focus on the IP and the kind of getting it sold as much as possible and getting it, all the focus isn't about the story. It's about just producing a product that's just going to get out. And we're really wanting to kind of refocus on the artist and refocus on the quality of the stories and make that kind of what we put out into the world.
Right. Well,
kind of an approach in a way, I guess.
Well, as long as I can remember, I've followed your career and you've been on the artistic side. So I wanted to know what made you want to take this leap into the publishing side of the comic book business.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've dabbled in it for a long time. I had a magazine that I put out years and years ago that kind of did a similar thing. And I just I'm still wanting to be in comics, and I'm still definitely in comics and creating them. But I wanted to also be someone who could affect change and kind of have a little bit more of an executive role in kind of steering that ship. So this was like a dream team that I couldn't resist. Curtis came to me like months ago and just said, "Hey, we need you, Hills. Can you join us?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
That's cool. So you are still continuing to make your own creative art in comic book field, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, very much so.
Okay. And I'm not sure if I'm correct in this, but is Hairball your most recent work?
Yeah, I think it would be. No, actually, my most recent publication would be Under Heist with David Lapham. It's through Boom. So that'll be, I think, about 4 or 5 issue series. It's really fun. A lot of it's crime and all kinds of. It's an adult book, but before that, it was Hairball with Matt and Tyler. And they collected that into a really fun hardcover graphic novel that's fuzzy.
That's pretty cool. Now, you mentioned your husband, Tyler, and you worked on a variety of different projects together. I wonder if you could talk a wee bit about the collaboration process. How do you two work together on various comic books?
Yeah, we're actually not. I mean, not many people know this, but we're not actually married anymore. It's been like a long time we haven't been together, but we still work together because it's a collaborative team that works. But yeah, we still work on some projects. And so the collaboration is where, depending on what the book needs, quite often Tyler will ink it on a page. And depending on the style, sometimes I'll watercolor on that actual original inked page. And then sometimes, depending on other books, we might do it where he'll ink it and then scan it and send it to me as a digital file, and I'll do maybe a gouache and put the lines on top in a digital form, so it sort of becomes layered in a digital file, kind of cleaned up that way for final production. But we really, honestly, one of the nice things about doing that work is that we can serve the story and be very adaptable to what the story needs, whether it's traditional medium or digital or whatever. Hairball was all done with watercolor on original inked pages. So there's like tangible final art that is available. So that's always fun to kind of do that in a more finished product way.
Do you have a preference, whether it be traditional or digital?
I always prefer traditional just because that I feel like I can put a touch on it that is a little more tangible, something that you can't necessarily, I mean, you can achieve it digitally, but for me personally, I enjoy the play of those pigments on the page. But it is an arduous process. It's a little bit of a madman's, way of going about it, because it takes, I'd say, sometimes double the amount of time it would take to do it digitally. So, because there's the scanning and then the cleaning of the edges and all that sort of stuff it adds, but it's worth it.
Sure. Do you have any other up and coming projects that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, I'm got Gamerville is a kid's graphic novel coming out through Harbor Alley, and Johnny Christmas wrote it and illustrated it, and I colored it. That's going to be coming out, I think, in the summer, a few months away, but it's been kind of announced, and I think it's available for pre-order. It's going to be a fun. We did swim team together a couple of years ago.
Congratulations on that. That won a lot of awards.
It did really well. Yeah, it was a really important book. Johnny did a great job of telling that story, and I painted every single one of those pages. I had like a stack of gouache pages, and it was a really fun project. So this is kind of our follow to that. It's not the same story, but it's like his next big book. So they asked me to be a part of it, which was fun. And so this is more of a male main character, where Swim Team was a female main character. So just a little different of focus. But yeah, that's kind of my next book coming out. I've got also Lamentation with Cullen Bunn that is out in hardcover now too, as well. That was out through Oni. So they've collected that in a hardcover. And then also we did one with Dennis Hopeless, which is an amazing, I think only the first issue is out through Amazon, maybe. It's a kind of an autobiography of his wild childhood, and Tyler inked it and I painted that one as well in watercolor. And it's a pretty harsh story about how his mom had to try and make a go of it on her own in a really rough situation. So it's a great book.
Yeah, you've got a lot of stuff on the go, that's for sure. You're not nothing stopping you.
No, I'm just go. I have to be busy all the time. I love my job.
That's great. Now, because you've got a lot of experience in making comic books, I want to ask you then if you can provide one piece of advice for someone who's thinking about making their own comic book. What would that be?
Yeah, I would say, because there's so many aspects to making comics. There's like the pillars of, there's the script, there's the inks, like the art, there's the letters, the colors, all of it has to kind of come together and sing. I'd say, just make sure you're watching people's mannerisms and kind of observing those little emotional quiet moments, because you really want to show, not say, in comics. You want to really have someone be immersed as though they were watching a movie. So in any way that you can do that, whether it's pacing in the panels, or my favorite is doing the colors, because it's very emotional for me. I get to kind of support the story with color in a way that can change how the viewer reacts to that scene, because of how maybe the sky is lit, and it can be kind of alluding to what's to come, or setting you on edge depending on what the character's feeling. So considering the emotional aspect, I think is a really important way to get that story across.
Sure. With all the activities you've got on the go, I'm wondering if there's a website where you recommend people go to find out about your current and your future projects.
Yeah, I'm not super awesome, at it, but my most recent kind of letting everybody know what's going on is on my Instagram, which is hilary.jenkins.art. And then we also have our Vast Vision page, which is vastvisionpublishing.com. And that's got links to our Discord and anything that's going on, because we've got, as of the weekend coming up, I'm not sure when this episode will come out, but this coming weekend on the 26th, I think it is. We have a storyteller convention that we're hosting with a whole bunch of really, 24th and 25th is our storyteller convention. And so we have some amazing guests, like actors and writers and comic book artists going to be speaking at that this coming weekend.
Will that be recorded for others to watch and listen to in the future?
Yes, it'll be on our YouTube channel live, and then we'll be recording it, I'm pretty sure, for content to follow so that it can be enjoyed later.
Thanks to Hilary for the chat. You can discover more about Hilary on Instagram at hilary.jenkins.art. And you can discover more about Vast Vision Publishing at vastvisionpublishing.com. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And remember to check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel and hit the notification button. You can follow along at True North Country Comics on most social media sites. And remember to send any and all feedback, any question you might have, to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2024.